Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET now. Well, we'll take forward our entire conversation, expand it to the scope of credit cards. And for that, we have somebody who specializes in that topic, Mr. Anshuman Mishra of LoanAdda.com. Anshuman, thank you so much for joining us. Praying for good health for you and your family as we go through these extremely difficult times. So, unfortunately, the pandemic has struck India once again with a much more brute force. And while we hope that its effect is minimized on people from a health perspective, from a financial perspective as well, there still will be some people who will go through the cash crunch issues that they faced, that the kind we faced, when the first wave came about. What is your view on, using credit cards to sort of tide over that cash crunch? Because many of us have our credit cards and we have good limits as well on that. What's your view on that?
See, Mubina, the situation being so grim, and on a daily basis, we are hearing, the numbers going up and each to their own. I think earlier my stance used to be that, you should not use your credit cards because that's quite expensive, like a 41%. But now my view is that jaan hai to jahan hai. So once you want to survive and you're falling ill, and the medical cost is of going to a hospital or finding things is so difficult, and multiple people within the same house are falling sick and sometimes seriously sick. So I don't see any harm in swiping your cards. Now, what you need to understand is that there are a huge set of people who are at lower middle class, or generally around that, so who will have a card limit of around 50 to 75,000 rupees. Okay, so one has to just be a bit careful of how you spend, because see what the pandemic has done is that it's divided the expenses into two parts. One is that you are taking care of yourself, you're taking some medication here and there. Then the second part, that the next cycle comes, if you are feeling sick, you get yourself tested, which itself has become a big difficult battle. Then the third is that if you are tested and you're positive and you start feeling more sick, so there you can't cut any corners, especially because life is more important. So I would say that whether you, as Mr. Rungta said, whether you have gold to sell it off, or as you suggested, to mortgage that gold, or to take an unsecured loan, or to swipe your cards. I think you can just swipe your card whenever you need it, and you have a limit, or at least apply and keep a corpus of cards, so that that's you don't use it also, but you can use it at time. And secondly, that cards, the advantage you have to understand that if you don't. If you repay the card used in 45 days, there is zero interest on it. So it's better than even a personal unsecured loan, wherein you will be paying 11-12% rate of interest annually. But in credit card, you have a cycle of 45 days. If you pay it, you don't need any interest. So I think this is a good way to keep yourself assured that whatever be your health, you don't have to worry about stress about money, and focus on your health and just try to relax yourself. That's my suggestion.
Okay, so it's interesting, Anshuman, that you've tweaked your recommendation a tad bit, and I think it sort of shows that how you have to be very flexible as well with your financial mantra as times change, and boy are they changing rapidly. I remember Anshuman used to say that it would be a good idea to take a loan and in fact pay off your credit card, because a personal loan today is 11-12%, but a credit card can charge you a good 40%. But of course, times are changing. In today's in the moment that we are facing right now, things are ever changing as well. However, Anshuman, I would ask you that with the credit card, there seems to come in a little bit of irresponsibility, if you could call it that, because like you mentioned, we have 80,000, 90,000, 1 lakh rupee limits on credit cards as well. How do you ensure that you are staying within your limits then? What tips, recommendations would you propose on that front?
See, the limits on your financial behavior is very related to your personal behavior. So you need to set up your own limits as to what you can spend on what you cannot, because I think what happens in these credit cards that when somebody gets it, so they don't share the information to their spouses or family, and some party and some spending is done. Today, I think everybody needs to be mature enough to understand that yes, 1 year back there was a huge hue and cry, and we were scared. But somehow there was a release phenomenon which happened, and all of a sudden, when this mutant came in last just hardly a month now, and it just devastated everything. So people had lowered their guards. So my request to all the people who have cards of, well, generally people are having, if you have 1 lakh, you will have an average of 3 cards. So you have a 3 lakh average, which you can take for even somebody who's having a 1 lakh income. He has a 3 lakh average. Somebody who has a 2 lakh should have a 6 to 8 lakhs of average card balance income. And I'm seeing a lot of them are actually completely capped out maxed, because somehow people are spending more on their life, the kab jiyenge. I think my recommendation to people is to, as you rightly said, to be a bit more careful, because uh, in today's day and age, you don't know how long this will last, whether another mutant will come, how long the vaccine will take. So what is in our control? Our own financial behavior. And we are all literate. We should also follow some financial literacy. That, as Mr. Rungta said, that 40% of your income, if it is going in your installments, now please add around 40 more percent, which is going in their credit card dues. So if you take the EMIs of the house and car, and then you take the EMI of the credit card interest, so people are actually paying 70-80% of their monthly salary as outflow. So where will you have? You're just living paycheck to paycheck. So please be a bit more careful and circumspect on what you are spending. Yes, there are different. Today there are different cards. I mean, I will give you another way or a trick. So see, different card, like 40% used to be a card limit when they used to. Now today, IDFC Bank has come with a card which is much lower in the rate of interest. So if you pick and choose different cards, and they go virtually as low as 9-10% just for a credit card, and that should revolutionize the market. I don't know to what extent it has been distributed, but we heard good things about the distribution network. IDFC First Bank as a brand has done good things, like the 7% rate of interest on the savings bank. So I think financial prudence, what you're spending on. Second, little bit of research on what kind of card you're using, where you're swiping, and please stop discretionary purchases right now. If you're buying for medicine, or you are sending to somebody, to your family or something, that's different. But discretionary purchases or any random thing which can be delayed must be delayed to not add to your burden of credit card expenses.
I think that goes without saying that at this juncture, put a stop to all discretionary expenses. It's just a prudent financial practice to do so during a crisis. Anshuman, I'm going to ask you one last question, and that
from an NBFC finance company, and they have charging him at 9.35. If they reduce it to 7.8, the problem is that the rates have even gone down from 7.8 to 7. So you have to keep going and ask them again, nahi, itna nahi, aur hua hai kam. So please reduce it. So I think the customer needs to go to the bank and keep requesting again and again, because every penny saved is a penny earned. And now, because of this current financial condition, is quite grim. Financial health everywhere, and I think we all have to keep all our corpuses together. If you apply to a bank now, and even if you save 10,000 monthly on your EMI, so if you reduce it by 1.5%, it goes down by 10,000 per month for a period of at least 20 years. So that's a big number. So why not keep going to the bank and say, no, the other bank is giving me much lower. Can you please reduce it? Or you ask the bank that I want to do a balance transfer. So I think what's happening is that in our hoard of trying to be spending and use a card or spend some on discretionary money, you don't have the time to go to the bank and ask them what happened. And when you ask them on the customer care once or twice, they ignore. There's no reply, or they said satisfactorily completed. But if you can keep asking the credit card company to keep, what happened to my card, why can't you ask your bank to keep reducing your rate of interest? You can ask them to link it with MCLR. You can just ask them to link to IBAR, but reduce it. But this constant knocking on the door is something people need to, in our parents or our times, they used to save and they used to, keep their hisab in a passbook. So I think people need to be a little more prudent and financially literate, and the people who are watching the money show obviously are the people who are more careful. But the ones who are not, the people who are not listening or not listening onto your show, they need to also understand that we can't allow ourselves to be complacent now. You have to go back to your bank or wherever some money due is there and ask them, please reduce it, and please ensure that my rate of interest is the lowest, or I can balance transfer this loan. This is a constant endeavor which we should do, Movila.
Hope all of this gets our viewers thinking in the right direction. Thank you so much, Anshuman, for joining in. And once again, I hope and pray that you or your family come out safe from this pandemic. And I think on that note, let me just digress a little bit and